the security for our home, we use different tools and technologies, right? We have the door lock, we have your gate, we have the CC camera installed, right? So we have the thumb enabled door locks, right? These are the different tools and technologies we use to secure our home. In the same manner, while you think of securing an organization, to make the life easier of a security analyst and the SOC team, we do use different tools and technologies, right? While you learn these tools and technologies, that's what you're gonna represent or focus in your interviews while you go for give for different companies out of it, right? So you do have an exposure of these tools and technologies and all those things you need to portray in front of the interviewer, right? So that's what we call altogether as the tool and technology oriented domain of it. Clear? Any questions so far? Okay, all good. Thank you. Let me share my screen. Okay, hope you guys can see my screen. Right. So today we're going to learn about the different SOC technologies, and to the furthermore, we're going to pick one for our further discussions of it. What are the different SOC technologies that we use? If I want to bring it in a one slide, right, we use SIEM solution for it. What is a SIEM, guys? Anyone? Probably this comes along with the SOC always. SOC and SIEM, SOC and SIEM. So they act as two faces of a coin. Anyone aware of what is this particular, what we call them as the SIEM? Okay, security information event management. Okay, wonderful. So SIEM stands for Security Information Event Management. Usually these tools will make the life of security analyst much more easier to analyze. In our upcoming sessions from tomorrow onwards, we're going to learn this technology to the depth manner. I mean to say, we're going to pick up one of the tool from the SIEM solution and we're going to learn that particular tool in a much more elaborated manner. So what is that particular tool? How we gonna use that one? How it is going to use it for our analysis purpose? All those things we're gonna cover in our upcoming sessions of it by including the demo as well, right? So by including the demo of it. Second technology is the threat intelligence. I hope this is covered. What is threat intelligence? Anyone? Why do we need this threat intelligence? Threat intelligence. Information of the threat. So usually what will happen, the threat intelligence acts as a directory or dictionary of all the threats, right? For example, in my organization, like I come across certain entities like IP address, hash value, email address. If you come and ask, hey Surya, look over here, I have hackme at gmail.com. This is one of the suspicious thing because why should anyone name something like this? And how do you verify that whether this is malicious or not, right? So that we use this typical threat intelligence tool of it. We use a threat intel tool. So this acts as a database of all the known threats, right? Any known malicious threat will be having or will be made an entry in the threat intelligence so that if you go and query this particular database, you will be able to grab all the information related to that particular malicious entity over there. So that's what we call them as your typical threat intelligence. Then we use a certain analysis tools, right? Like basically which will help or assist our analysis, right? Being a security analyst, we need to decide sometimes. For example, being a L1, you need to decide whether this is malicious or not, whether this is suspicious or not. At all the time, these analysis tool will support us on that particular part of it. Than the SOAR technology. I think much awaited, and most of you already have a fear of it. Sir, SOAR is there. Will SOAR take over our job? Will L1 job be automated? Right? So don't think about all those things, guys. SOAR is already there in the market for more than 4 or 5 years. Right? So even I worked as a developer for SOAR. Even I'm a user of the SOAR. Even I worked as implementer of this particular SOAR in many different companies. I have seen the feedback. I have experienced what they feel. This tool will not be able to make it 100% because of the trust. We, the humans, of course, we do believe on the tool or we believe the technology, but not to a greater extent. Right? We always doubt it. Okay, whether this tool is telling it correctly or not, whether the information given in the tool is right or not, right? So we do have that query out of it. So that's the reason SOAR, right? Security orchestration and automation and response, right? So this particular tool will not be able to have its greater impact. But however, this is also one of the technology that will be used by the SOC team, right? For making the life easier of a security analyst, right? Because we do spend a lot of time. For example, one alert triggered at 7 a.m. and other alert triggered at 7:05, 7:10, 7:15, 20, 21, 22, 23. When you get these kind of series of alert, a security analyst time will be spent more on any one of the alerts, which is critical and malicious, and rest other alerts we neglect it, and the time will be spent more, and will not be able to achieve 100% efforts out of it and accuracy of it. That's why this SOAR came into picture, where once an alert triggers, automatically it will start executing the playbook, right? It will go and create a ticket. It will go and check in the virus total. It will check in the IP void, whether this is malicious or not. It will go to the active directory and fetch all the user information, and it will do the certain basic analysis, and it will save that particular thing, right? So that's why SOAR is widely used, but because of its higher pricing as well. So somewhere, if I remember correctly, $15,000, right, is what it cost for one SOAR license. One SOAR license will cost somewhere around $15,000. Hopefully, it might be increased as well. While I was working around, so this is what I see the quote, right? So basically, because I do work as a lead manager, so consultant for various companies. While I used to look at the quotes, they used to quote $15,000 for this particular company. So that every company needs 2 to 3 lessons, just like this, 2 to 3, minimum 2, maximum of 3 to 4 or 5. So just think of it. If I'm just using it 2 or 3, it cost me around $45,000 for a company. When they convert into lakh, just see how much of lakhs the company has to invest on one single tool. That's why, because of its higher pricing, so many of the companies are very hesitant to go for SOAR, right? Like even in my present company as well, right? So they have a favor for SOAR, but budgeting is not allowing them, right? So they don't have enough space in the accounts to go and accommodate this particular company, right? So that's why SOAR, because of its higher cost, because of its higher what we call them as technical requirements, right? Only very few companies are using this particular SOAR technology out of it, right? So these are all the different technologies that you get to see in the SOC. Remember, your interview will be majorly be focused on these tools and technologies, right? Any one of the tool you might get questioned, any one of the technology, even you need to showcase your capabilities, right? So that's how you can focus in the interview, because obviously interviewer expect you to have a greater knowledge in at least one tool or one technology. If you are showcasing more than 4 or 5 years of experience, definitely yes, they will ask you to focus on multiple areas, right? So it might be SIM solution, it might be your SOAR, or it might be in your proxy, it might be in your antivirus, right? They want you to bring in value into the team, right? So your interview and your focus should be the same. Even you guys might be thinking about it. Surya, you said we need to be well versed in this. Are we going to learn each and every tool out of it? No. because of the platform limitation, because of the licensing limitations, what we have, right? So we will not be able to learn all the tools and technologies, but definitely yes, we are trying to focus on threat intelligence, SIM analysis, SOAR, all to the intermediate level of it, so that you can go in the interview and say, I do have focus on all these tools and technologies, and this is what the knowledge I pursue, right? So it's all about interview. In the interview, it's all about what you speak and what you portray yourself, right? What level of knowledge you have, right? Just because we are in the SOC for 4 5 years or 2 3 years, that doesn't mean I have access for everything, right? Hope you understand how the company politics as well as growth works, right? So you, when you get hired as a L1 security analyst, so they don't allow you to have access for each and every tool. They ask you to have just a user level access, read only access. So you can just look at the tool, log in, log out. That's it. So you can't perform any change. You can't click. Some of the options are limited, right? So these things will be there. Out of that also, you need to portray that you do have a good amount of knowledge out of it, right? So that's a one more very much important aspect of it. Clear? So EDR tool, I would not like to add it into the SIM solution. I would like to add it as a separate category itself, right? As a separate technology itself, because nowadays we do have a major focus on the EDR section as well, right? So we do have a major focus on EDR section as well. So hopefully in the future, we'll speak with Anand Guru sir, right? So we can have certain EDR sessions from him only, right? He's having a good amount of knowledge out of it. So we'll try to arrange a few of the sessions. It's not 100% guaranteed one, but definitely yes, I will request. So from all of your end that we can have a couple of EDR sessions, demo as well as how to answer in an interview, why it is important. He's gonna cover out of it, right? So that's about our tools and technologies. Moving further, so as I said, we're going to focus on SIM, right? SIM stands for Security Information and Event Management. Why do we need a SIM, guys? Anyone? Why do we need SIM? What it does? Okay, it is going to help the security analyst for analysis purpose, but how? How is it going to bring in the value into our organization? Collect logs, monitoring tool where it's going to alert us, consolidates data, compliance, analyze the logs, integrate all log sources at one place. Okay, that's a good thing. One more question I would like to pitch in over here is, in the last couple of sessions, I mean to say last couple of weeks of session, right? You learned about many different types of security solutions, right? You would have learned about firewall, IPS, HIPS, or it might be EDR, or it might be any other different tool, right? How are you going to monitor these multiple different platforms when you have 10 different items in front of you? How are you going to monitor those? Every time log in into firewall, see what is happening. Log in into HIPS, see what is happening. See what antivirus detections are made. See what your EDR tool alert triggers over there, right? So we need to rely upon multiple different platforms for that particular reason, right? So we need to just log into 10 different things, right? Obviously, it will make a life of security analyst much more boring as well as tough as well, right? Because logging into my shift, go and look at EDR, go and look at antivirus, go and look at the firewall, go and look at this, that, 10 different items, when to do, what to do. And if you're stuck in firewall, then EDR is already triggering hundreds of alerts, right? To avoid this glitch, right, which is faced by many different companies, organization started using SIM solution, right? SIM tool will make the life of security analyst much more easier by consolidating multiple security platforms into one single entity. What it does, so it will collect all the logs from the various log sources. When I speak about log sources, what is this word called as? Log source. That means any critical thing that belongs to your organization. It might be switch, it might be router, your servers, your security solutions, your networking solutions, right? It might be your firewall. All these things are capable enough to generate the logs, right? So they will generate the logs, and these logs are collected by this particular SIM solution, so that once all these logs are collected and piled up into one single area, then what will happen? You can write the collision rule to trigger the alert. Every time I can't analyze millions of logs. This second, this moment, I got 10,000 logs. If I ask you to look at 10,000 logs, trust me at what time you're going to do it. And every minute, these kind of 10,000 logs will get added up. So we need some mechanism which will continuously analyze the logs and inform if something malicious has been detected by the particular tool of it. Right. So that's what we call altogether as our typical SIM solution out of it. So what it does, as shown in the figure, it will just try to collect all the logs from these various wide range of it. It might be your router, it might be switch, WAF, firewall, DHCP, DNS server, email server, everything. So logs will be collected and it will be sent towards our SIM solution. And SIM, in turns, it will correlate and try to find out the suspicious activities out of it. What are these suspicious activities called as alerts? So these suspicious activities, we call them as the alerts, which we, the security analyst, we gonna analyze this particular alert and take a necessary action based on the maliciousness, right? Whether this alert is malicious or not, suspicious or not, we will take up the next course of action out of it. Right. So example of suspicious activity, when you try to enter the username, for example, so yesterday you changed the password and you're trying to hit the new password, but you failed to remember that one. So what will happen after multiple attempts? Right. So you try to enter the username. Okay, Suryavir 123, Suryavir ABC. So you try to remember that one. Okay, what is the thing that I set? So then what happens, right? It's a kind of brute force attack. What is this particular brute force? Brute force is nothing but when someone tries your username and password repeatedly with a number of hits, right? Obviously, it is going to trigger an alert. That shows that someone is trying to log in into Surya's machine or a server, right? So because we are seeing repeated failure attempts, how means each time when you fail to enter a username and password, a log will be generated, right? Each time a log will be generated. These logs are helpful for you to analyze that these are malicious or suspicious or not, right? So these things can be correlated by using the correlation rules. You need to define the rule saying that if a user tries to enter the password and fail for more than 4 times in less than 1 minute, automatically it will trigger an alert saying brute force behavior observed, brute force attack detected. So that's what we call them as the set of conditions, or what we call them as the correlation rules out of it. Remember, so slightly we are leveling up in terms of the knowledge wise, guys, right? So don't worry too much of it. Just try to understand or digest the concepts, right? So because it happens, it's a human tendency and behavior. If you are listening for the concept for the very first time, you'll be able to understand only 7% of it, right? But while you listen to the same concept for twice or thrice, your understanding level will go up to 80%. Just take a note of this concept, and later when you, if you just Google it out and if you just research about it, you will be able to get more amount of knowledge out of it, right? Just try to digest the thing. Okay, what is correlation rule? What is the logs? Right, like how this alert triggers, right? So if you're aware of it, that is sufficient. As of now, you are in a good shape. Clear? Then in the above condition, So what are the conditions that we have specified? Failed login event. So if the same user, if it were more than 20 times, 4 times, 5 times, 2 times, you can write the condition. If it is less than 1 minute, automatically it will trigger an alert saying that possible brute force attack has been detected, right? So that's what your SIM does. Right here, an attacker tries to guess the password. Usually what will happen? So these alert you get to see when the attacker tries to guess the username and password, right? So that's why every organization will ask you to set a very high strength password. I hope even you have done it. Some of your working people, if you can agree with this, every 3 months once they will force you to change the password, or they will ask you to uh, what do you call as just change or make it much more complex, make it 12 characters, make it 15 characters, make it 18 characters. They will ask you to do this. Why? Because of this particular context itself, because attackers are always one step ahead of us. We think that sir, my password is so strong, sir, like nobody will be able to guess it. But trust me guys, if you go to the dark web or deep web, pay $1 or $2, your whole history will be available, including your transaction history, right? So that much of powerful. So we are living in terms of all our typical what we call them as the online social world, right? So we order the food until we buy the products from the online. So nowadays everything is online. Nobody wants to go to the store and buy something, including your pharmacy, including everything, right? Who knows who stores the data and how it is used and where it is used? Because data is everything. If my website is not making money, if I just sell all the data of the users who are visiting my website, still I can make money, right? If I have 10,000 users and if I'm selling each users for $10, just think of it, right? So lakhs of dollars will be made just by taking up your data and giving it into an attacker's hands of it, right? So that's how secure we are right now. So once the logs are sent to the SIM solution, it will do the correlation. It will trigger an alert called as possible brute force attack, and it will be sent to the SOC room as an alert, right? So as you can see in the image, so it will be sent as an alert. Then what we do, we the security analyst will start analyzing the particular alert, and then if it is malicious, if the user says, Surya, I don't know, I'm not trying to change my password, or I'm not trying something, I'm already off my shift, I'm not working right now, then this is a possible brute force. Then we need to raise an incident or create a ticket for it, right? If the user says, yes, Surya, sorry, yesterday night I changed my password. Today morning when I came back and login, I forgot my new password, what I said. That's why I'm just trying with the different possible attacks. I'm not able to get through that particular ones, right? So that's why. So SIM covers around 30% of the visibility into the network, right? So all your data and all those things, SIM is having 30% of the visibility of it, right? SIM can generate the logs. So then you might be thinking, sir, how about other 60%? Among other 60%, even EDR tool, endpoint security tool, right? So extended detection and response. This particular tool is also having the rest 30% of the visibility, because EDR majorly behaves on top of your behavioral analytics ones, right? How you gonna behave out of it, right? For example, in terms of any suspicious file behavior, you double click on a Chrome file, and in the backend, there is some other different file which gets generated, right? So this is suspicious. Who is going to monitor that one? We are least bothered about it. I just double click on the Chrome application and I want the Chrome to open, and I go to the Google and I do my job. But why should in the backend that there is some other process that has been initiated which says Chrome 123.exe? Right? These the kind of suspicious behavior will be detected by this particular EDR solution, right? EDR or XDR, we call them as extended detection and response tool, right? So we have NDR as well, so which will do the network visibility, right? Network detection and response. But from the SOC team perspective, we are mostly bothered only with your EDR and XDR solutions out of it, right? So that's how the SIM and XDR plays a vital role in terms of it. The second most technology out of it is threat intelligence. Right? What is this threat intelligence? Cyber threat intelligence is an information about the threats and the threat actors. Right? Usually, what will happen? Any attacker group related information, attack vector information, IP related information. So what we do? Probably malicious IP address used by an attacker. So all those entities will be taken care by this threat intelligence part of it. So bad guys are always ahead of good guys, right? So that there is a saying in our IT industry, bad guys are always ahead of good guys. If we think that, sir, we have so many different tools and technology, and how come we are able to secure? So just think about the Fortune 500 companies. Have you seen any company in the out there in the world who has challenged the attackers so far? Including you can check with the Google, Microsoft, or it might be Walmart. Any you can take up the topmost companies, right? As anybody said that we are 100% safe and secure, go on hackers, including your iPhones as well. Trust me, guys, your iPhone 13 series was hacked by just a 13 years old school kid from China. A 13 years kid from China has cracked your iPhone 13 version, right? That much of secure. Even iPhone 14 was also cracked, and I'm not sure about iPhone 15, the latest version, right? So probably you would have seen that information as well. We think iPhone or iOS is more secure compared to our Android, but yes, so there is nothing called as 100% safe and secure out of it. Right, so that's a reason. So we use this threat intelligence as an add-on, right? This acts as a thing where we'll be able to get all the information related to the cyber threat intelligence. There will always be new type of attack which will take some time to tackle or mitigate, right? So whenever an attack happens, if it is fresh into the market, obviously we call them as zero-day attack or zero-day threat. What is this zero-day threat? What exactly it is? Zero-day threat is, or zero-day attack is nothing but if any attack that is new into the market, right? We call them as zero-day threat, right? Just like the coronavirus, right? Coronavirus is the new one. Nobody knew what is coronavirus, how to mitigate, what it creates, what it happens. We never knew the world is going to shut down for years together, right? We never knew about it, right? So just like that, this threat intelligence, right? So this threat intelligence will always help us to get the information about the new type of threats about it, right? So such type of attacks, we don't have any protection. We call them as the zero-day attack, right? So this is an example which I took about the COVID virus, right? So even for the cyber attack also, we see many new type of attacks. So unless and until one company faces it, for example, when China got impacted with the coronavirus, then only the world came to know that there is a virus called as corona or COVID, which is going to do like this, which is going to create the problems like this. Apart, nobody never knew about it, right? It's a one-time experience what we came to. So just like that, zero-day attacks are also the same thing. Unless and until one company faces the attack and then they say or they report it to the all the vendors, then the world will come to know that okay, there is a new type of malware called as a ransomware, or it might be any of the different types of attack. For the reason sunburst attack, ransomware, log4j. So these are all the attacks where someone has impacted and because of them the world got to know. But for that company it's a zero-day attack. For the rest of others it's a new type of attack where we all obviously try to close the door for that particular malware. So that's about your threat intelligence part of it. So today there are more automated ways of sharing the threat intelligence, open source and commercial. What is this? What are open source and commercial? Does every company has this particular entity? The answer is yes. So what will happen? Companies will always wants to stay ahead of other company, right? Sure, if any new attack comes into the market, I should be notified first, right? If I depend on the free sources, unless and until government or any vendor website will come and publish, I will not come to know that this is malicious, this is suspicious, right? But in the commercial threat intelligence, what will happen? You are going to pay some threat intel websites as a part of yearly basis, so that you will be notified about all the latest cyber attack or threats of it, right? So these are all few of the commercial and open source. Meaning of open source, you can use it any number of time. Just go to the Google, type in virustotal.com or type in abuse.ch or type in threatfeeds.io. So you'll be able to access it free, right? So these provide all the information about IP address, URL, your email address, file hashes, and etc. So that's about your threat intel tools. Any questions so far? Is there any difference between threat intel feeds and threat intel platform? No, Sandeep. Threat intel feeds are the information to be fed into threat intel platform. Right? Both are same. Feed is nothing but you feed some information to the platform, and platform is nothing but which will be used by us. Any questions so far? You can ignore my running nose. So I'm not feeling well, but that's okay. I'm able to speak it up. But if you find some disturbance, please ignore it. So what is the best threat feed nowadays? Ajay, we don't have any information such kind of thing, right? Like which is the best or number one on that part, because it all depends on our belief. Some companies lead and manager and directors, they believe IBM is first, or it might be any other different vendor for the reason. So it might be a government related one, right? Even FBI or government of India, US cert, right? NVIDIA.gov. So they all are the platforms which will share the information at the earliest about the latest cyber attacks. Threat hunting and looking for threat intelligence are same. No, Ravindra, both are totally different entities. Threat hunting is different, threat intel is different. What security solutions use threat intelligence? That's a good question, Muhammad. So obviously your SIM solution, your firewall, your SIM, as well as your antivirus. So these are all the tools we're gonna use this particular what we call them as threat intelligence to get the threat feeds. To block the latest IP address for our firewall, we need to have it integrated with our threat intelligence platform. That's how it works. No, Sandeep, we don't have any documents for it. So which SIM tool you will be covering up? We'll be working around the Splunk. We will be working around the Splunk, Ajay. Like we're going to learn about the Splunk tool. No, yes, like we'll not be covering up, apart from Splunk, we will not be covering up any other particular tools for it. Obviously, yes. So it's good enough to get into the Splunk, into the SOC by having the knowledge of Splunk. Obviously, yes. See, companies expect you to have a knowledge and exposure of any of the SIM solution. They don't expect you to have knowledge only on Splunk, right? So if you have knowledge about IBM QRadar or Azure Sentinel, you can portray that one as well. But however, knowing one tool in the depth is sufficient for the interview. Okay. So speaking about the furthermore next type of analysis tools, right? One of different analysis tool, a security analyst has alerts to analyze, right? We come across various situations and similarities where I want to know whether this IP is malicious or not. If I ask you guys, tell me 192.168.2.1, is it suspicious or not? If someone says, yes, this is suspicious, you'll ask, okay, to whom it belongs to, why it is malicious, what it is known for. If I ask you, try hackme.gmail.com, is it malicious? How are you going to verify? By use of these analysis tools. Remember, the host, So it's a process which is running in the background and it is consuming the memory. So if it is LAN or internet, we use all these particular analysis tools to analyze the situation, because we have so much of traffic that is flowing in into through our alerts, or it might be logs as well. Sometimes we need these analysis tools as a part of our what we call them as the process. For example, if you are a soldier, not alone the gun is going to save you. You need, sometimes you need a knife, you need a water bottle, you need some first aid kit, you need a good amount of ammunitions, you need a secondary gun for it so that you can fight a war. If I have just one AK-47 in my hand, I cannot use it all the time, right? So there are some other relevant tools which will help me to survive being a soldier. So just like that, even for a security analyst as well, just because I have a SIM or something, that doesn't mean I'm 100% safe and secure, right? All these tools will bring their own value in their own aspects of it, right? So it might be wireless total, IP void, IBM X Force. They will try to, right? So they will try to help us by verifying the information. Sysmon is a tool which will try to get all the logs related to running system processes, right? What are the process that is running in a system? It will be monitored by Sysmon. So auto run. So process explorer obviously will help you to get all the running process. Wireshark, it will try to analyze the packet. Likewise, we have many different types of what we call them as analysis tool. These are all the open source, guys. If you are interested, definitely yes, you can go ahead and install this particular tool and try to see how good they are. Clear? You can just have a look at the screen and look at the different names, right? No hurry, buddy. So once you're good, we'll jump into the next slide. You can read the different tools. Okay, done. So let's hop in into the next slide. We're going to look at the SOAR technology. I think most of us favorite ones. What is a SOAR? So why do we need this one, right? So some of us will try to hate it because we think it's taking up our job, but actually it is not. It itself is not trying to get a space in the market. That's what the real fate of SOAR is. Because of higher price, because of higher technologies and tool, so it itself is not able to stand in the market, right? That's the exact thing what it is actually. So what it does, security SOAR stands for security orchestration, automation, and response, right? So what is the meaning of orchestrate? So probably you would have seen the band of musicians in front of them. There will be one person who will try to orchestrate towards a one good direction, right? Sometimes you will ask some people to slow down, some of them to go fast, right? So based on his hand movement, all those musicians will try to change their pace, right? So we'll try to orchestrate. The exact meaning is automation. That means many other different tools will listen to this, right? This SOAR tool, they will listen to this particular part. So what is the meaning of automation? Obviously, we are trying to automate certain activities which we are doing it in a cyclic basis. Every time, go to VirusTotal, put an IP address or upload a file, get a report of it. Every time, go to the Active Directory, search for a user, get this information. So while you're doing it in a repeated manner, one question comes, can this be automated? That's where the origin of SOAR will come into picture, because our security analyst has been rotating with so many different smaller aspects like this. So go to the SIM tool, look at the alerts, get the information, look in a cyclic manner, come back, right? So that's why. So this SOAR plays a vital role out of it, right? Remember, so how this is configured in the real-time organization. Once when your SIM is configured and alerts are triggered, it will be sent to the SOAR. SOAR will do all the job of our whatever the security analyst does. It will go to the Active Directory, fetch the information, go to the threat intel and try to fetch whether this is malicious or not. Go to vulnerability scanner and see if that machine is having any scanned vulnerabilities or latest vulnerabilities or not. Then it will go to the firewall. So it will try to block the IP address if all these analysis came negative. That means it is malicious. So if it is found suspicious, it will try to block the firewall. It will go to the antivirus, so scan the machine, right? Go to the Active Directory, disable the user. Vulnerability scanner, run the vulnerability scan on top of it. After all these things, it will send a detailed report to the security analyst so that from thereafter our security analyst will see, okay, what action need to be taken further, because immediate action has already been performed, right? So vulnerability scan has been initiated, antivirus scan has been initiated, because IP is malicious, blocking of the IP has been done right now, right? And right now we need to just see, okay, what these results will came back on that particular part of it. You might be having this question, sir, sure it's a tool, but how does it work with all these subsidiary parts you are saying? By API, right? Application program interface, right? By API configuration. So is also having its what we call them as the configuration part, right? So it might be Cortex XOR, it might be Swimlane, it might be Cisco, it might be CrowdStrike. They have their own wide range of products, but among them, Cortex XOR is one of the topmost ones, right? So they are very earlier ones into the market, but probably I can say the widely used ones, popular ones among the SOAR tool, right? So when you just look at all those security solutions into one single picture, this is how exactly it looks like, right? So you can just take a quick 5 to 10 minutes of break, right? Look at the particular screen and see where our different types of technologies has been used or deployed within this particular screen out of it. Right. So after the break, we're gonna focus on our Splunk tool, or it might be Rollox out of it. Clear? Okay. Just have a quick break. We'll be back by 8:00 exactly in my time. So now it's 7:51. So we'll be back within 9 minutes, and we'll continue our discussions of it. So hi guys, welcome back. So far so good. We learned about different technologies in SOC. Now let's have our focus, right? So towards our Splunk tool, one of our SIM solution. Let's learn that particular SIM solution, right? Because we spoke a lot about the SIM tool technology. It's a vice versa of SOC, where SOC ends with SIM, right? Like we learned about it. So right now, let's focus on one of the tool called as Splunk, which is a type of SIM. Remember, SIM is a technology, car is a technology, right? So Jaguar, Audi, BMW, Benz are the brands of it who manufacture the car. Just like that, SIM is a technology. Splunk is a tool who is going to manufacture a type of SIM solution. So usually the appropriate word in the IT is who is going to own or create a particular tool called as Splunk, which does all the SIM capabilities out of it. So just like Splunk, we have many different vendors out there in the market. As some of your friend already spoke about it, IBM QRadar, or it might be Azure Sentinel, ArcSight, McAfee, right? So there are many different types of SIM solutions which are widely used. So why they're gonna use all these tools? It depends from company to company on type of it and why do they need all those things will matter. So while they go and have a particular tool for it. So today let's learn about the Splunk architecture. Let me share my screen back. Okay, so today let's learn, right? So about our Splunk tool or Splunk architecture out of it. So what are the different important components of Splunk? Remember, Splunk is a type of SIM solution where it is having majorly the three components of it, right? This is very important, guys, from an interview perspective. So this moment you speak about Splunk, you're gonna get questions on out of this, right? So it might be related to forwarder, right? So look at from this bottom, forwarders, indexer, and a search head. What is this forwarder? Anyone? Anyone can guess it? Any guess here? What is the forwarder? To forward the logs from the application to Splunk. Agent installed. Okay, collects the raw data. Perfectly yes. So what do we do? This typical Splunk tool, so what we call them as our forwarder, is a component of this Splunk which will try to forward the logs that are generated at a particular log source. For example, firewall is generating the logs and I need those logs that are generated in the firewall to be fed into our SIM solution, right? Called as a Splunk. What do? I'm going to install this forwarder into that particular firewall so that that installed agent, right, what it will does, it will forward all the logs towards our indexer, right? So in the forwarder also there are two types of forwarders, heavy forwarder and universal forwarder. What is the meaning of heavy forwarder? Heavy forwarder will do some sort of filtering at the log source. That means sir, I don't need all the logs from this, I can filter out few, because if I send it, unnecessary license consumption will be happening. So what do? We're going to install heavy forwarder on that particular machine first. So what do? So we're going to install a heavy forwarder so that heavy forwarder will not collect the unwanted logs. Only required information will be collected and it will be forwarded towards our indexer. In the same manner, we have universal forwarder. As the name itself says, universal. That means no filtering of the logs will be done. Each and every log that has been generated, we're going to forward it towards our indexer. Sorry. right? Usually on our critical servers, for example, it might be file server, DHCP server, DNS server, which are critical for our organization. We're going to install universal forwarder into it. So that what will happen? So that universal forwarder will try to send all the logs that are generated into our indexer part. Then, okay, right now we learned about, okay, logs will be sent towards our indexer. What does an indexer does? Right? Indexer is a critical or a crucial component of your Splunk where it does the major part of the activities just by storing all the logs, right? And it will do the aggregation and normalization. What is the meaning of aggregation and normalization? There are new terms. You might be thinking, okay, Surya, what is this aggregation normalization? Where will it is going to happen, right? So what will happen is, remember guys, when you go to the office in the morning, 6 o'clock, you log in. And after 10 minutes, you log out, you go for a break, you go for a cup of coffee. You'll come back again by 9 o'clock, you go for breakfast, again you log out, come back and log in. Again, your friend came to the desk and you went somewhere and again you log in. So what will happen? These login, logout, frequent login, logouts, if I store all these logs, unnecessary information will be consumed. Right? Unnecessary information will be consumed. Sorry, unnecessary storage space will be consumed. So what will happen? We can collide or we can collaborate all these similar logs into one particular log, and we mention, okay, login and logout events. Event count equals to 5. That means 5 times you have logged in today. Right? If I mention like this, it will save some space for me. That's what we call them as aggregation. Right? Aggregation in your indexer part. What is the meaning of normalization? At a time, firewall will send the log. At a time, even your DNS, DHCP, file server, all other critical server will keep on sending the logs. How to store this? If I mix everything, will it be okay? The answer is no. If I mix every log, how can you be able to look at that? Right? You need all those stored in an individual manner. Okay. For example, you need to store them separately. Only firewall logs should be available. Only DNS logs would be available. That's what we call them as the normalization. These features are shown and owned by your indexer. Indexer does the job of storing the logs. It will does the job of aggregation, normalization. Aggregation in a very simple manner. So collaborating the similar type of log into one log, we call them as aggregation. Storing all the logs in a separate manner, right? Basically, because of its capabilities, we call them as normalization. That's what your indexer does the job for you. Then search is very simple. Search is nothing but your UI. It's just a graphical user interface, right? It's just a graphical user interface. So how a UI looks like, we call them as the search head, right? So usually Splunk Search Head, we're going to have a demo of it in our tomorrow's session. But however, Search Head is nothing but it's just a simple UI. How the tool UI looks like, we call them as the Search Head, right? So that's what we're going to see in our Splunk basic architecture. Remember, so when someone asks a question about the Splunk architecture, without explaining these 3 components, your architecture will never end of it, right? You need to speak about universal forwarder, speak about heavy forwarder, what does an indexer does, and search it does. Clear? Understood, guys? Splunk architecture is a very important thing. At least you got a basic idea of it. As I said, if not your 100% understanding, at least you got an idea of it. This is what the maximum screen size I can make, Chinmay. Okay, I'll repeat once again. I'll repeat the entire architecture once again in a very simple manner. Splunk architecture majorly consists of 3 components. First thing is forwarder, second thing is indexer, third thing is search it. Within the forwarder, so what it does, whenever the logs that are generated by the log source, we need some agent to take those logs from the log source into our what we call them as the Splunk indexer part. Who does that particular job? Forwarder does it. How do they do that one? Right? So how do they do that particular one? Forwarder is having two different components: heavy forwarder and universal forwarder. Heavy forwarder, what it does? Heavy forwarder will do some sort of filtering. We don't need all these logs; these consume unnecessary space to do it. So let's just ignore, right? If you don't want those logs from that server, you can install heavy forwarder and do that particular basic filtering, and it will forward the rest of the logs. So just like that, in the heavy universal forwarder, as the name itself says, universal. That means every log that gets generated from that server will be forwarded automatically. This particular aspect of it. So that's what we call them as your forwarder part of it. Next thing is indexer, right? So indexer, what it does, indexer majorly does the job of storage of the logs. It will store the logs first, right? Second thing is all about related to, so it will does the normalization and aggregation. What is this normalization aggregation? As the name itself says, aggregate, grouping of similar logs. As I said, if I store individual logs, it will consume a lot of space. And if they are similar logs, I can make it as a group. That's what we call them as aggregation. How does grouping will happen? Grouping will happen among the logs of firewall, among the logs of Active Directory, right? In their own logs. I can't group Active Directory log with firewall log. They are total different entities because firewall log is different, Active Directory log is different. That's how it works. Normalization is nothing but, so here at a time, firewall will send the log, Active Directory will send the log, antivirus will send the log. Can I store all of them in a mixed manner? The answer is no. End of the day, we'll say, sir, first log says antivirus, second log says Active Directory. What should I do? So to store them in a separate section manner, right? So for example, back in the school days, so probably every one of you used to gather at the prayer section, right? So it might be from first standard, second, third, fourth, fifth. But after the prayer, each one of us, we used to go back to our own sections, right? So first standard, like we used to go back to our own section. So just like that here as well. So what do we do? So normalization will happen on top of grouping of similar type of events. So that's what will happen at your typical normalization part of it. Okay, so then that's about the indexer. Search head in very simple, it's just a UI, guys. Don't worry too much. It doesn't have any too much of technical aspect to it. So it's just a UI. It's a graphical user interface, right? So it's what about our UI is all about. That's about it. And if you want to see the difference of universal forwarder and heavy forwarder, you can see universal forwarder cannot filter or mask data. It doesn't have any UI installed on the log source itself. It can collect performance data as well. How the device is performing, what is its bandwidth consumption, all those performance data can be collected because it's a universal. Usually on your critical servers, file server, it might be DNS server. So we're gonna install universal forwarder. Heavy forwarder, it can filter and mask the data, right? Some sort of data, if you don't want, it can do the filtering. It's a standalone server. It cannot be installed on the directly on the log source itself. It will be installed as a separate server where it will go and collect the logs, do the filtering, and come back and forward that one. It cannot collect the performance data out of it. So that these are all the key differences between them both. Right? So how we're going to use this one, it depends on the organization to organization. Some organization, they'll install universal forwarder because they are critical ones, collect all the data. We're going to install in our universal forwarder. Some they will install heavy forwarder. It depends from company to company, the process and the techniques they are going to follow out of it. You can see here, these are the different deployment option. In the option number 1, universal forwarder will take all the logs, it will send it to the heavy forwarder, then to the indexer, then to the search head. In option 2, universal forwarder, the indexer and heavy forwarder will be installed on one single server, then the search head. Then these two will be installed in a separate manner. For example, if your company is in India and US, all the logs in India will be sent to the Indian indexer. From the US, will be sent to the US indexer out of it. So likewise, we can have these customization options. Who does this particular thing? Are we going to do that? No. Your Splunk admin does that particular installation for you. We just need to have a knowledge of how our Splunk architecture has been deployed. It's very important. Tomorrow, when you go to any company, you get a job. So first thing, know the company very well. See how many users we are, which are the locations we do the business, how many servers we have, which all the security solutions are installed where, right? If you know your company well, you can secure well. That's what my belief is. Okay, so then in the data flow, you can see this is how the data flows usually in the organization. This is just a sample thing, what I have shown to you guys, right? Log source, universal forwarder will send a log towards heavy forwarder will send it to the indexer. This is just a sample deployment option. You can see here. In real time, this is how it looks. You can just take a minute of time and you can have a look at it in a detailed manner. SH stands for searched, HF stands for heavy forwarder, right? Rest of this, I think you will be able to grab it. This is one of the sample small companies architecture. Splunk admin does that particular job, Ravindra. Onboarding of the logs, because the security analyst doesn't have admin access to it. Splunk admin does the job of installation and onboarding part. We just use it for analysis purpose. Clear? So speaking about the Splunk licensing part. So how does the company takes licensing of this? On what amount of it, right? Splunk licensing will majorly be done by amount of data indexed per day. Per day, if I am able to see 10 GB of data, 20 GB of data, 60 GB of data, it all depends on the company and its size, right? If I have hundreds of log source, security solutions, and all those things, obviously data will be more. Then I need to go for much of it. How can you calculate EPS? First thing is, Splunk, what they will do, they will see how many logs are we going to hit per second. EPS stands for events per second. EPS stands for events per second. So EPS, it will be 2000. That means 2000 logs are coming per second. Think of it, guys, per second, 2000 logs are coming in. To store one log, we need 400 bytes. For 60 seconds, right, for 1 minute, this will be for 1 hour. This will be for 1 day. So if you calculate it per day, you need 69.12 GB of licensing from this Splunk tool. So what they will do, rather than taking up 69.12 GB, they will take 75 GB or 80 GB, so that on some occasional manner, if the logs increase, right, enormously. Today we have high traffic into our organization because of holiday and all those things. We should be able to grab those logs as well, right? So licensing just works like how you recharge your mobile phone. Once your recharge is done, you're no more able to use that one. That's why we go for recharge basis on a monthly basis. That's how here also Splunk licensing will work. Per second, how much of data you're getting, calculate it for per day and take that much of license so that you will be able to store that particular data out of it. For retention time, so for example, some company will store the raw log for more than a year, and parcel log will be stored for more than 3 months, right? So this retention time will differ from organization to organization. So Splunk installation, how you want to install. This slides, I'm going to share it with your group. If you want to install furthermore, you can just take it out as a reference. Right, so you can see these are all the different ones. On which port it works. This is also one of your interview question, right? Splunk management port works at 8089. Splunk component to component. Your indexer to forwarder, forwarder to searched, all those things will happen by 8089. Indexing port works on 9997. Web access port, that means your UI works at port number 8000. Syslog port on 514. All these ports need to be open while you configure Splunk tool. These are the 4 main important ports that will be used, right? So as someone said, Splunk uses SPL, Splunk Programming Language. So that language we're going to learn in our tomorrow's session. We'll try to give a demo of it and see what commands we use, why we use all those things. tomorrow. So from tomorrow, it will be slightly advanced, right? Please make sure that your mind is full free and you are coming fresh to digest the particular knowledge out of it. Sorry. So this is about your typical Splunk part of it, guys. We'll share these slides in your group. You can use it for further more reference knowledge out of it. Okay. Any questions so far before we wind up the session for the day? So if you install Splunk on your machine, like see, if you install the Splunk, you don't get the logs. If you need the logs, you need to onboard it first. And your device is just a log source. You need to onboard that one. Splunk licensing is prepaid or postpaid. It's a prepaid ones. Okay. Thank you. Any more questions? Can we get dumps to practice? I will try to share a few more dumps. Splunk same components. That's what we discussed right now, right? What are these aggregation, normalization, agent? All those are your same components itself. There is nothing called as a Splunk basic plan. It's all about the licensing cost. What is the default license per day? There is nothing called as the default. That's what, guys. Don't try to guess that there is something called as the default base package. Nothing. It's as good as what is your organization size, how much logs you're getting. Just go ahead and buy it. If it is 1 GB, go and take 1 GB, 2 GB, 3 GB. That's it. There is nothing called as base package. 10 GB will be free and afterwards you need to use and pay. No, nothing like that. No, all the SIM tools doesn't have the same architecture, so they might be having the different ones. So Prashant, as good as your